Season's greetings, everyone. Welcome back to Pelican Town and Stardew Valley. A chilly bite hangs in the real air outside, and it's just about made its way into the valley too. For those of you just joining us or in need of a refresher, this playthrough is quite unlike most Stardew playthroughs. Our farmer is Anxious Steve, and, well, he's not a people person. Content to stay on the farm and tend to his crops, it has been nearly 2 full in-game years of talking to as few people as possible. This little challenge has all been in service of a silly goal where we see if Grandpa's visit on the dawn of the 3rd in-game year has any funny results due to our shut-in behavior. That and, well, I wanted to do something stupid for this Stardew playthrough. Anyways, that said, most of this playthrough has been in live streams. While I've taken time to play on my own, I tried my best to save important events for the times when we can come together in the Barkade. This time, though, I really wanted to make a bit more progress, but I didn't want to make that jump between seasons without a bit of a record. So, without further ado, join me and Anxious Steve as we take you for the last day of fall and the first day of winter. Enjoy. It is day 28 of fall, year 2. And like most days, I wake up with 468,000 gold. No, I wake up and I immediately go to my TV to check the weather, as well as our fortune for the day. We got really good fortune. We have the gold little pyramid, which basically means we have really good spirit luck. On top of that, it says our weather is going to be really good tomorrow. We're going to have sunny without clouds, and that's going to be pretty decent for a nice little start to winter. Right here at the very beginning of this day, I'm having to go through and clear out my inventory. I spent day 27 in the mines doing a lot of things just so I could pass the time and get to day 28 where I could record. So I'm having to put things away, make sure I got everything ready to go, and then I was going to put everything into the selling box to sell for the next day. On top of that, we have a little bit of crops to clear up. Our corn is ready to go, but at this point in time, most of them have all been cleared up and are ready to just fade into dirt by the time winter rolls around. I will say I was a little sad as I was doing this, and I was thinking to myself that all of that wonderful fertilizer is just going to waste, but that is how these things tend to go, and it would have happened anyways, even if there were crops there, so it is a small loss to be had, but it is an unfortunate one. I put some lovely little bones away so I could have some fertilizer for the coming season, and then I basically got ready. Since I knew that this was the final day of the season, I was like, there's no real reason for me to spend any time really on the farm. So I'm going to go and I'm going to try and prepare my best to make sure that I'm coming into winter 1 with all the tools that I need. So I put away everything and I organized things. I got my water ready so I could feed Herbert. Not feed Herbert, but give him his water bowl. And then I went to put everything away and head to the mines because I figured getting some bones for fertilizer was a really good idea. Along the way, before we left, I took a time to make sure that my orchards, basically my trees of fruit and different sap producers, were ready to go and had their moss cleared of them. I've also been checking to make sure that there are no saplings growing in the way. I tend to clean those up to make it nice and pretty over in the area where I build my trees. On top of that, made sure my cave of fruit was producing, and I grabbed some blackberries over there. And then I went to put an apple into my fermenter so I can get some apple wine by the time about middle of winter rolls around. With all those preparations done and dusted, I take my leave of the farm at 8:40 a.m., just about 8:50, and we make our way up and towards the caves. Unfortunately, a little bit earlier, I decided to put my hoe away because I was deciding that, hey, well, I don't have any won't have any means or need of this, so I just had to stare and guard against these worms because I couldn't actually interact with them, unfortunately. But that little travesty aside, we walked over to our caves and we're ready to go mining. For this mining expedition, it is one where I'm just, like I said, looking for bones. If you guys don't know, one of the recipes that you can get for fertilizer, in particular the Deluxe Hyper Grow, requires you to get bone fragments, and the best way to do that is to drop down into the ice caves to search for our favorite little skeletons. And so that's what we're doing. Taking our time to hop down the mines and search. It was really fortuitous that we got a wonderful little good spirits fortune result today, because that definitely encourages, or not definitely encourages, but it actually gives us better opportunities and more chances to find easy ladders to go down in the cave and continue our route, which is really nice. Of course, as I'm running through here, I have the very basic pickaxe, so it is not only taking me a long time to dig through all these blocks, what am I saying, with the rocks and our lovely little ore deposits, but it's just kind of silly. It's one of the reasons why I did this challenge. I was excited to see how it would go if I decided to delve deep into mines and stuff to challenge what it had. With that, our first little ladder down. We're of course going to get a couple of different little pieces of iron and stuff to make sure that I can have my supplies ready to go by the time spring 1 rolls around of year 3, because by then I will actually be taking the time to go and talk to people. The end goal of this challenge has not been very clear. For many I know the joke is really just to see whether or not Grandpa says anything interesting to us by the time we get his dialogue on the dawn of year 3, but I actually do intend to play a little bit beyond that to actually get my upgrades going and see whether or not I decide to either find a partner in the game or really just take my opportunities to have a wonderful farm and make it even more productive. We'll see how it goes by that time. Thankfully, at that point in time, I'll probably be switching computers, so we'll also have the opportunity to start a new save file, probably a forever file, where we decide to do whatever we want and have fun doing some of the craziest things we can. It's been really funny. One of the key highlights of this playthrough throughout this entire time we've been doing it is that I've not been to the beach outside of like 3 or 4 times. And that is because if you go there, I think any point during the day, especially early in the morning, Willie will interact with you and give you a fishing rod, your basic fishing rods. I've deliberately avoided him in order to not get his interaction and not have his entry fill up in the journal. So it's been really interesting trying to avoid different sections of the map and stuff as you take into account different interactions to make sure you're avoiding things. I think in hindsight, one of the interactions I probably could have avoided was the Jas and Vincent interaction you can have as early as, I believe, like late spring of your first year, where they are intimidated by sounds coming from the sewer. And unfortunately, because we got that interaction, they are listed as 2 entrants into my journal. There are a couple other ones that are, I'm pretty sure, scripted to happen no matter what. Those include Demetrius, who will come give you your, I really don't know how to describe it other than like your cave profit. Whatever you do with your cave setup. Your science experiment, I guess, I suppose we can call it, because that is technically what it is to Demetrius. So Demetrius will come and set up the science experiment, which will count towards him being unlocked in the journal. And then Marnie will count as 1 because she will come deliver your pet, I believe within 2 weeks of spring. Actually, it might be summer 1. I forget. Or a week of summer. I always forget the exact dates of when these events happen and stuff. On top of that, there is another one you can probably likely avoid that I might have decided was one I probably could have done, but would have been incredibly boring. Would have probably just had me sleeping a lot of days rather than going into the mines. Because if you decide to get any ore from going in the mines, I think even delving into the mines, you might get Clint to show up to give you a furnace, which is not ideal. I think it does require you to get copper ore, so I believe you could avoid that by basically just probably going through all 30 of the copper levels, your 20 grass levels, and then the dark caves, and then entering your level 40 ice caves. You could probably avoid Clint if you decided to not get any copper that way, any time during that point, I should say, but it is kind of up in the air whether or not that would work. But I also don't think that would be very fun. I've enjoyed getting copper, going down to level 120 just with my basic pickaxe, and managing to complete the cave system. I think we got that before ending year 1, I think, which is really exciting. But at this point, we have been delving down into the mines. It is 4 p.m. on Sunday, fall 28. We do have a little bit more to progress and get in regards to items. I am looking around trying to get as much as I can, trying to find as many skeletons that are in my pathway to make sure that I can get as much bone fragments as I can before the season ends. But it's at this point in time where I wanted to bring up something interesting, because I felt this immediately upon getting closer towards ending year 1, and that there's an opportunity for an ultra combo. Sorry, that was a very silly thing, and I was trying to think about how I was going to work that into the my improv rambling, and it did not work well. I had to dramatically detour off of the topic I wanted to bring up, which is very funny. So you know what? That's what you can expect if any of you decide to go into content creation. Expect your improv to go horribly wrong occasionally. Regardless, the point I wanted to bring up is that Stardew has a very interesting thing, especially if you're not progressing items. There is a very real boredom factor that comes into play, I think, where sometimes delving into the mines is not what you want to do. But that is all you're left to do if you have sprinklers and systems set up that are handling your farm as you want to have happen, because taking up a lot of your time watering stuff isn't the best. So freeing yourself up to do other things does both free up to do those things, but frees you up for boredom, which is a little bit of an unfortunate thing. And I noticed it kind of walking into the end of fall here in year 2. I'm like, since I'm not upgrading any of my tools to their final progression, I'm not unlocking iridium sprinklers or doing crystallizers or heading to the the desert biome, I should say, or anything quite like that. It is a very difficult thing to find things to do and put on as a show. As we've been doing a lot of the live streams, it's been hard. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, guys, we're gonna go to sleep. We're gonna skip the day until we can go mine the next day or something like that, which has been pretty fun. But doing these challenge runs that are very difficult, a lot of the times they will encourage you to just sleep a day away so that you can progress a little bit faster to get where you need to be at in the year. That said, we have left our ice mines. I was like, it is getting late. I know I'm not going to be making a lot of progress since I'm down on level 79 there. And as soon as you hit 80, you enter into your lava caves, which are not conducive to getting iron and bone fragments because skeletons don't spawn on those levels, on level 80 downwards. You can only find them on 50 through 79, I believe. So I decided, hey, you know what? Let me go get some extra stone. Let me get some copper. Let me make use of my remaining energy to do something else in this last day of fall. And so that's what I did. I gathered copper with my axe there, as you can see, and some extra stone, which was very delightful. It is now 8 p.m. We are just about a few levels away from ending our journey into the mines here, and finally making the journey into Winter 1 of Year 2. And it's at these points of time where sometimes the serenity of running around, swinging your sword against the bugs, hitting your pickaxe against rocks, grabbing your materials, is all you need out of Stardew, which is really nice. And with that, it is 10:30 p.m. It is late in the night. We make our run back home to go sleep, deposit our items, and begin our journey into our final winter. Good night, everybody. Good night, Herbert. Day 1 of winter, Year 2. Start our wonderful day off with some wonderful music, 6 a.m., getting neutral spirits, some nice weather in the morning, and some weird advice from our wonderful little living on the farm host, saying that we're going to need a nursery even though we don't have a partner. So normally for a lot of players, if they don't have their resources in check or they haven't spent a lot of time gathering items ahead of Winter 1, there's not a lot to do. Winter 1 on a fresh casual playthrough can be a very empty time. It is one where you head to the mines, you upgrade your tools, you find upgrades for your house, you spend time with the locals, but you're not really farming. As is the case in real life, winter is a time where the world goes to sleep. Our crops say goodnight. We tuck ourselves in for the coldest months of the year. But we're a little different. We're out here at 6:50 in the morning, tilling our land. No hat on, ears a little bit chilly, but we're getting ready to plant some powder melons. On top of that, we do have 102 winter seeds, where we'll be able to gather things like, I believe they're croaks, frozen tubers, snow yams, and crystal fruit, I believe is the last one. I begin to get planting here, and I realized to myself, wait a minute, I can make this a little bit faster. If I grabbed some lovely little oak resin and some of my bone fragments, I didn't need the hardwood, I can make some hyper deluxe or deluxe hyper grow. And with that, I can put that into 24 plots to make our powder melons grow a little bit faster. The good thing is as long as I'm being diligent and getting enough seeds off of the powder melons from my seed extractors, I can keep this little plot going for the entire month. So I put away my extra deluxe grow, grab the rest of my powder melons, plant them into the ground, and I get ready to start digging for the rest of our 102 seeds. In some ways, Winter 1 is a very interesting farming time because you have less to plant. You don't make as much money this month from farming, but you still can farm. And it's nice, even with basic tools, you're spending very little amounts of energy. Just about half your bar, I think, is what we end up with. In order to till all your ground, water all the crop points, and end up with a lot of wonderful seeds to work with and crops to grow. It was at this point, though, at 9 in the morning, I was like, damn, my ears are cold. I've been out here working for 3 hours. I need to put a hat on. And so, with winter fashion in season, I grab my little red beanie, and I get back to work, watering my crops. Or I should say watering the ground for my crops. I decided to myself, hey, I want to make sure I have a nice little symmetrical and perfectly allotted plot of land. So I decided to close up that little bit of tilled land so I'd have just what I need for my 102 seedlings. With our first little patch done and all planted, I move on to the one next to it, as well as the two above it, into the left. And as those final seeds are planted and I get over to put away all my resources, kind of begins the real aspects of winter, I think, in Stardew. It is a lot of quiet loneliness and deciding to do different things that will benefit you in the long run. So I decided for myself that, hey, let's take some of our ores and start accumulating our resources so that I can actually upgrade my tools come spring 1 of year 3, or probably about spring 5. Let's be honest, I'm probably not going to be doing a lot besides talking to people for the first few days and getting things prepared. So at this point in time, I move my copper around in my inventory and I head out to the world in order to find different resources to make things I need. Getting some crocus, which I incorrectly named earlier as Croaks, getting some holly, and checking different avenues of the valley in order to find things and make small little scavenges. Of course, our favorite pastime of rummaging through garbage bins is coming up. Because, well, that's kind of one of my favorite things to do in this game. I think it's really silly. I am, of course, here checking when the booksellers come. And unfortunately, they don't come for another week and a half. But that's okay. The bookseller is one I honestly look forward to because it is an event that is so different from a lot of the mundanity of running around and being anxious Steve. Of course, we saw our little babushka. And then I discovered, hey, everybody over here is hanging out, and I want to make sure I'm not hanging out near them because I really am always scared of accidentally interacting with people. I did come into Piers here just to check to see if there's anything I might have missed in terms of seeds or items I might want to plant before I get too deep into the season, but there's not. So I take my leave, and one of the interesting quirks of this game started to appear. I hadn't noticed this until I was really late into recording, but Stardew has a weird thing with its lighting conditions in OBS. I'm not sure quite how to fix it yet, if there is a fix to it. It might be as simple as taking off my glow ring or maybe changing my encoder on OBS, but for whatever reason, lighting works really weird in this game. As soon as it hit 3 p.m., the conditions for darkening the sky started to happen. And as such, when I was recording on OBS, all that lighting disappeared. So it looks really dark right now, chat. Even if it's only 3 p.m., but I promise you it looked a lot brighter as I played this. Heading to the forest, we pick up some crystal fruit. I take my time to find some more seeds, some more crocus. And really, I just take my time to be a little bit lazy. Winter 1 is always very quiet, very mundane. Very slow down pace. But eventually, as the clock strikes 5:30 p.m., I decide to make my way back up to the farm, deposit my rewards from scavenging across the lands, and take a nice, easy night. There's also this point that I was trying to decide, hey, how do I make winter seeds again? And I failed to realize that holly is not actually a part of the recipe. It is instead snow yams that I need. And it really hurt my brain trying to figure out exactly what I needed to move around and keep in order to start making winter seeds again. But as soon as I figured out I can get rid of the holly safely, I organized my inventory, put everything away, and sold a couple of items before grabbing all my copper. As the fires burn away, and I manage my resources, I spent a lot of time here. About 2 hours in game time, just waiting for copper to grow. Or, not grow, but I should say melt. And get ready to be into ingots. So I can end up with about 24 ingots in total. To take once spring rolls around, and turn into nice, fashionable tools. It'll be a slow, long burn trying to upgrade my tools, even if we have all the resources by the time our third year rolls around. Because, after all, it's hard to upgrade our watering can when we still need to water our crops. But I might burn it at a loss. Or run the farm at a loss, I should say. So that we can end up with a fully upgraded watering can at some point. Probably up to gold by the time we get through a couple of seasons in year 3. And as the night comes to an end, and I head indoors, I bid you all farewell. I'll see you again on the next Stardew stream. Until then, stay warm, and good night.